Well, guys, the Supreme Court has decided, the Republican Trump-nominated supermajority Supreme Court, I should add, has decided that Donald Trump cannot legally be stricken from the ballot in Colorado and effectively any other state, regardless of his status as a insurrection, starter. This, of course, is a partisan decision. I don't think most progressives really agree with it, but it's the reality of the situation. And this is a democracy, and at the end of the day, I don't think that striking Trump from the ballots would have changed much about the likelihood of him getting, they would have voted for him anyway. They just wrote his name in, and that doesn't change anything. So it would have just basically been something that makes the Democrats look as undemocratic as the Republicans. So frankly, the fact that this failed is probably a good thing. I don't think that trying to, play the same game the Republicans do and get Trump off the ballots is a good method. We truly just have to increase voter turnout and convince people to vote against Trump for Biden. And of course, we also need to dissuade people from being nihilistic and uninterested in voting, because you're not just voting on the president and vice president when you go to that polling booth, or if you just, by the way, vote early and do mail-in voting and just get it delivered to your house weeks ahead of time, fill it out whenever you damn well feel like, and just mail it in, and you don't even have to leave the house to vote. So much fucking easier and better. I think you do have to leave the house to drop it off maybe, but I think you might just be able to send it in your mailbox actually. Who knows? Anyway, you're voting on a bunch of other things. You're voting on policies, referendums. You're also voting on other seats as well in local elections. You're voting on the House sometimes as well. So it's there's a lot of reasons why you don't just want to see, oh, I don't like either of the president choices, and then just tap out of voting. Because you're not just voting on the president, you're voting on a shit ton of stuff, and not going to the polls means you are completely giving up your say on a substantial amount of issues, most of them local to you. The kind of things that will actually change your life. I mean, whether or not weed becomes legalized in your state is going to be on the ballot, probably during a general election, and you're going to have to vote on it through the general election ballot. That's typically how it's been done. So that's just one of countless examples of why, even if you don't like Biden and you don't even plan to vote for him, you should certainly at least go to the polls and vote. Because even outside of the president, there are a lot of positions and things you want to vote on and not have your voice be silent on. Now, with that in mind, we need to talk about people, especially on the left's, lack of enthusiasm for Biden. The fact that, frankly, a lot of the media has not given Biden the proper positive attention for his insanely good domestic policy, as he rightly deserves. On the left, there's been a hyperfixation on the fact that he is, like every president before him, supporting Israel as they conduct a imperialistic, colonialist genocide. Pick your buzzword, against the Palestinians. But meanwhile, he has been the best president in every single other way, while being the same as every other president in the way with Israel. So it really just feels like the bar has been getting raised unattainably high for the approval from lefties for a Democrat president. I'm not saying you have to get down on your knees and kiss Biden's feet or anything like that, but I think it's important to recognize when it's time to scream at Biden and when it's time to be damn, Biden's actually doing a pretty good job. Look how much better for the average working class American a Biden or just Democrat presidency in general seems to be than a Trump or Republican presidency. But instead, even now, 3 months into election year, we're still harping on Biden. I mean, we're less than 10 months out from election day. I feel like it's time to start focusing our priorities. Especially with Nikki Haley still trying to bleed as much support from Trump as she can until the primary ends. She is not going to step down, according to her. So the fact that we almost have some Republicans working together to try to take down Trump, like some sort of team up in a superhero movie. Soy. Like, I really feel now is the time for us to exert our electoral power and finish off Trump for good. I don't see him being capable of running in 4 years, frankly. His health looks like it's declining. His brain seems to be melting as well. People talk about Biden's age. People forget Trump's like 3 years younger, and he is also starting to have a lot of brain meltiness. It has been reported that a lot of people think Trump is more, it doesn't get like come off as old because he doesn't stutter as much. He just talks nonsense 24/7. And so if his mind was melting, you wouldn't really be able to tell the difference, and his childishness and his lack of maturity in the way he conducts himself almost makes him seem young at heart, is the wording that a lot of people used in polling. So it's like, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if Trump's going to be, like, well enough to run for president in 4 years. Unironically, I think this might be the final go. Like, does he win this election and destroy our democracy if he wins, or do we win and stave him off until he's like a rotting husk? You know, that's kind of the goal here. Now, surprisingly, we've got an MSNBC video where Rachel Maddow apparently does a really good job of explaining why Biden is so good. And I'm not talking about why Biden is better than Trump, but simply, in a vacuum, why Biden is good. Not an argument of compare him to the other guy or he's better than the other guy. Simply, here are reasons why you should actively be happy to cast a vote for Biden and feel as if that is not just preventing disaster, but causing good. Let's check it out. Now, stream gets knocked out, and it says, like, stream stopped for policy violations or something like that, like it did yesterday. Just know, sometimes when I react to mainstream news outlets like this, YouTube shoots first and asks questions never, and all I have to do is just stop playing the video, stop showing it, wait, like, 2 to 3 minutes, and my stream will come back. So if it happens, just be patient, don't freak out, don't spam the chat like crazy. Just say it happened, and then just start saying yourselves, if people in chat don't know, be patient, it will come back. It's just a temporary stream termination due to copyrighted material being detected. So if that happens, just know that's what it is. I will continue the segment, most likely, nonetheless, if it does happen, because I'm still recording and I want the segment to go up just fine. But the stream will come back in time if it does happen. But it probably won't. It rarely does happen, but when it does, people freak out, even though it's not a big deal. So just fair warning.
When the Republican frontrunner remembers that it's a man named Joe Biden who he's running against and not Barack Obama, the whole basis for that campaign against...
Yeah, Donald Trump and then also a bunch of Republicans on Twitter were saying that Obama was president. Like, well, Trump accidentally said Obama was president, like, in a literal brain-melted, like, dementia moment. And then, like, to try and back him up, because everything Trump does must be 4D, 5D, 6D, 12D chess, the Republicans on Twitter started saying that actually Obama still runs the country and is the president through Biden, is what Trump meant. And they've, like, born that conspiracy theory from Trump's mind-melted gaffe.
Against Biden, as you know, is that Biden's out of it, that Biden's old and stuff, right? Trump's 77, Biden's 81. A new AP poll out today says 6 in 10 voters have worries about the mental capacity of each of them. About 57% of voters say they have that worry about Trump. About 63% say they have that worry about Biden. The margin of error in this poll is just over 4%. And so, yeah.
Remember, both of them are older than the average American man's average lifespan. Like, they exist in a category so separate from the average American age-wise. There is a case to be made there. That's, like, some validity to the fact that, like, we really need to have younger representatives.
Yeah, it's kind of a tie. I think the headline here on the AP story about this today is about right. About 6 in 10 voters in America have worries about both of these old dudes maybe being too old and out of it. But that's who the two parties are running. So pick one. Right? Pick one. That's your choice. Pick one.
Exactly.
I mean, you have lots of grounds.
I said exactly this back during 2020. When Bernie lost the primary, or yeah, when Bernie lost the Democratic primary, I was upset about it. I was rooting for Bernie. I was excited for Bernie. I was hopeful for him. It looked like he was going to win for a while. It truly did, and for a moment there, I almost rest assured believing he was going to win the primary and he'd be the nominee. It genuinely seemed that way, and I was just as upset when that ended up not being the case. And you know what? I still said, even before Bernie lost, no matter who wins this primary, even if it's not Bernie, you vote for them in the general. You vote for them in the general because it's what we have to do to stop Trump. Even if the Democratic nominee is Bloomberg, I don't care. You vote for him over Trump. Because Trump's policy platform is to make it so there will be no more elections ever again.
On which to choose. They have also, both been president, which is a rare thing you get to choose from among presidential candidates. But that lets us compare them, right? In the past
That is a very good point. Trump's been president. We can look at how his presidency went. Not too well. We can look at how Biden's presidency went. How'd that go? Not too well. People are going to try to say that the really good economy we had for the first, the first half, I would say, two-thirds or three, yeah, I'd say two-thirds of Trump's presidency. People are going to try to say that the really low prices and relatively, high interest rates that we got during Trump's first two-thirds of his presidency mean the economy was really good and that Trump was doing a good job. That is, in fact, not the case. Much of that was due to Obama-era policy still kind of lingering around with its effects during Trump's presidency. What truly was the effect of a Trump presidency was what we saw in the last third of his presidency, which was the economic recession due to his horrible response to COVID, the worst response to COVID of any country in the entire world. There were literally third world countries that were handling COVID better than the United States. And yet, meanwhile, we see a massive recession. Donald Trump is fighting tooth and nail to prevent stimulus checks from being handed out to Americans across the country. We get the stimulus checks. I think we get 2 or 3 of them. I don't remember. And Donald Trump now has tried to take credit for the stimulus checks as being a thing that he did that was good, even though he fought against them tooth and nail. And then on top of that, Biden has taken the horrible economy we had, coming off of Trump, going into his presidency, and we're probably going to see one of the strongest economies we've had under a Democrat president in this last third of Biden's presidency. The question is, are we going to see prices go down? Gas prices, I genuinely don't see going down. The companies want Republicans in charge for a variety of reasons. They set the prices, so gas prices are probably, well, they don't set them, but they influence them heavily. So I don't see gas prices going down, so Republicans are going to be able to keep on saying, look at the gas prices, despite Biden, expanding permits for domestic drilling of, fracking and oil, more than any president ever before him, even Republicans, while also expanding permits on green energy infrastructure more than any president before him. Just creating, and all domestically, all here in America on our soil, creating shitloads of American jobs.
3+ years that Joe Biden has been president, we've got unemployment below 4%.
Yep.
Best job market since, depending on you count, the 1960s. Violent crime at nearly a 50-year low. The United States has had the best economic recovery since COVID of any large country in the world.
I love that tweet where the guy says that Biden, when he did that executive order to bypass the Supreme Court and cancel shitloads of people's student debt, not all of the student debt in the country like he wanted to, but a lot of it. And there was this one person who tweeted about how Biden completely canceled their student debt. He's freed up $800 a month of expendable income for them, and they still don't want to vote for Biden and still won't vote for Biden because of Palestine. To a certain extent, there are people who are never going to vote in the first place, and they're proud of it. They see not voting as a sign of moral purity. They're not really worth appealing to, But I think it's important that we try to get these accomplishments in front of as many people as possible, even if there are people who are so like dedicated to their beliefs and have reached a point of such cognitive dissonance that like they'll keep raising the bar forever. It's worth getting these accomplishments to as many people as possible. They need to know about it.
The stock market has hit record after record. More Americans have health insurance than ever before. He's standing up against Putin, who's one of the least popular figures in the world with American voters. He's fighting for reproductive rights, which is something even red state voters say they want, while Republicans are stripping those rights aggressively everywhere. He's cutting student loan debt while Republicans are trying to stop him from doing that. He has brokered and signed the biggest bipartisan infrastructure deal ever in the history of the country. Unions have never been more popular in my entire lifetime, and I'm old, and he's the first president ever to join the picket line with striking auto workers who then won their strike and then endorsed him.
The thing is, you want to know what like a lefty on Twitter would respond to? Doesn't matter, 30,000 dead. That's all they'd respond to with this. And then they'd refuse to vote, and then Trump would get elected, and then Trump would be like, I want to bring my good friend Netanyahu here. How many of those Palestinian scum did you kill today, Netanyahu? Like, have you glassed Gaza yet? Good. Oh, good. All right. We sent you the nukes. Glad to hear. Very, very good. This would have never happened under Biden, people. Like, that is how it would go. That is exactly how it would go. Like, Donald Trump would, like, bring Netanyahu over here and, like, praise him for how many innocent Palestinians he's killed or something, and then send him a bunch of nukes so they could glass Gaza. Now, if you think that's crazy, Trump suggested nuking a hurricane.
His Democratic Party has outperformed the polls and outperformed history in the midterms and in all of the off-year elections since he has been president. While on the other side, his opponent has been indicted 91 times. And don't forget that his opponent was just president right before this, which we remember. And even if we don't, in the 3+ years that he's been gone from the White House, we have learned some real doozies about what exactly was going on there.
He's had Trump would have meltdowns in the White House while throwing his fast food nuggies across the room and spilling ketchup and mustard all over the fucking Oval Office tables and whatnot. These are literal, there have been countless stories about his meltdowns and his temper tantrums and his little, baby rages. It's just not the kind of person you want to be leading the country.
The new photos released showing boxes of documents stashed in a ballroom, even a bathroom at his Mar-a-Lago home. The indictment saying among the classified documents found in the boxes, information...
Like, Trump being president is clearly a national security risk. I know it's a very easy thing to just sort of, throw to the back of your mind, but legitimately, the fact that Trump was very clearly selling off secrets or handing off secrets to foreign powers, some of which are in hostile stances with us, such as Russia... really not a good thing. Not a good thing for the American people. That's us, for the most part. Most people in chat. Not everyone, but frankly, it's not good for anybody. If you're a European and a NATO country watching, you don't want American top secret documents getting leaked to Russia. That's not good for you guys either. That's very not good for you guys.
About U.S. nuclear programs.
I overheard the president say something to the effect of, I don't effing care that they have weapons. They're not here to hurt me. Take the effing mags away. Let my people in. They can march to the Capitol from here.
Did you guys hear, by the way, that Donald Trump wants to withdraw support from Ukraine because, and I quote, they don't pay enough into their defense spending? There's basically this, deal where a bunch of different countries that are in, the UN or NATO, I forget, there's a deal where they have to spend a certain amount on defense spending every year, and then if one of them gets invaded, one or more people come and help them out. It's sort of the same situation we've got going on all around the world, really. If a world shipping lane gets attacked, we come out and we help because we're the big boys in the field. It's usually America. And so Trump's suggesting that because supposedly Ukraine's not paying enough into their defense spending budget, they aren't like keeping up their end of the deal, and so we should pull back all support whatsoever from Ukraine and let them fall to Russia. Obviously, it's no secret this is part of like Trump's collusion with Russia, and like Trump wants to work with them to like get Ukraine like into Russia's hands because it makes Russia more powerful, and Russia would be a powerful ally to Trump. So yeah.
Let the people in, take the effing mags away.
A $2 billion investment that former President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, secured last summer from a fund led by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia has raised questions about the ethics of post-White House business dealings.
And we're back with Cassidy Hutchinson. Cassidy, what was Mark Meadows
so much
burning
corruption
every day?
Yeah, I wish I knew, Nicole. There were several times I would walk into Mark's office and I would see.
My favorite thing is the Donald Trump official lie counter. It's a real thing. You can look up how many lies, like definitive, blatant lies Donald Trump has told factually, with sources for every one, and a reference to him telling everyone on like a website. I forget what it's called. It's in the tens of thousands, and in a very short, like in 1 year, it's like tens of thousands of lies. It's quite crazy. And these aren't small fibs either. Like, they're substantial, purposeful lies told to protect his reputation or convince people, like, to attack others' reputations.
Him putting papers into the fireplace.
Eventually, it culminated, the long break, simmering break between he and myself in June of 2020 when he wanted to deploy active duty troops on the street of Washington, D.C., and suggested actually that we shoot Americans in the streets.
Jesus.
He suggested that we deploy active duty troops in Washington and shoot Americans in the streets, says his defense secretary. And the White House chief of staff was regularly burning documents in the White House fireplaces. And the son-in-law mysteriously gets a $2 billion housewarming present from a foreign government the second he walks out of the White House. And he's stashing classified documents about America's nuclear programs at home in a bathroom and then refusing to give them back. And he's explicitly asking...
Not even at home, in fucking Mar-a-Lago. I guess it technically is his home, but God, I've seen Mar-a-Lago in real life, even before I knew who Trump was. It looks like a big gated community, like, vacation resort, more so than like a mansion or a house. So it's just kind of weird to even like it's full of strangers is my point. Like, outside of the potential foreign dealings Trump was doing with those documents, it's just a place that is filled with tons of underpaid and unpaid strangers walking around accessing those rooms all the fucking time. And yeah, you know, I'm sure there's lots of pedos too because Trump's friends, but still, like, my point is, it's not a safe place for those documents to have been at all. Like, it's not like Biden, who had legitimately forgotten some, like, top, like, okay, so what happened with Biden, because you probably heard a lot of shit about Biden's illegal documents. What ended up happening was Biden had a bunch of documents when he was still, like, when he was vice president that were not classified when he took them. They were fully legal and fine for him to take home and just have, like, at home with them for work at home or whatever it may be. You know, if your job is in politics, it makes sense to have some paper filings at home, especially if it's not top secret illegal to have filings. They were retroactively made classified, and after that point, possessing them is considered an issue. Now, a court and investigators were able to fully determine that Biden absolutely did not break the law. He took all those files home when they were not classified, and it was completely fine. They were retroactively classified, and based on their storage, A, they were quite safe in the way they were stored, compared to the way Trump had stored those files, especially. And B, it was very obvious that Biden was not knowledgeable of the classification of those files and would have made an effort to return them and, like, write that had that been the case. The court pretty much determined there was no reasonable belief you could come to that Biden maliciously committed a crime. So that's actually the story behind the Biden files thing. It was a complete bullshit, like, scandal. Nothing ever came of it. That's why the Republicans completely dropped it and don't talk about it anymore. Of course, they never, like, took anything they said back. They never do that. But they just dropped their completely losing positions. So, yeah, that's the worst thing Biden ever did in regards to top secrets.
armed people to be let into the crowd he was going to direct to go to Congress.
He might have been a senator, he might have been vice president. Regardless, the rest of that is all accurate.
To overthrow the government to try to keep him in power. That's just a sprinkling of the things we have learned about his time in office since he left office. Today, there's actually another one. New reporting from Rolling Stone. Look at this headline. Trump's White House was awash in speed.
I read this article last night. I saw it in r/politics, actually. Yeah, there has been like a massive outing of the fact that drug use was rampant in Donald Trump's White House among tons of staff. Like, this just came out yesterday. I read this article last night. I saw it in r/politics. It's funny.
And I don't mean speed as in efficiency.
Xanax?
I mean speed as in everyone was on
guys.
drugs. Who wants those guys back in the White House?
It's like the Nazis.
Because the two major parties are going to nominate someone, and you got to pick one. Which would you prefer? You have to pick one. We're actually going to speak with the lead reporter from that Rolling Stone.
No, I don't. I don't have to pick one. I choose not to participate in democracy. If forced to choose between one evil or another, I'd rather not choose any at all. I'm like Geralt Witcher.
That's what these people sound like. That's how they would respond.
Story in just a moment. But I will just leave you with this. There's no magic spell. There's no solution that is going to come, say, from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court did the favor of reminding us all of that today when they ruled that Trump will stay on the ballot all over the country. They gave us that reminder today. After last week, they made sure we knew it in the first place when they somewhat inexplicably took action to delay all the Trump criminal trials except the one they couldn't stop until after the election. There's no magic wand coming to stop this thing. There's no, magic beans that you can grow here that make some beanstalk take us away from all of this. There's only one way out of this. Pick one. The Democratic Party has picked its nominee. Yes, it's an old guy who is doing practical, normal, and popular things as president and who has a lot to show for it, particularly in terms of how well things are going economically since
I've legitimately heard normies complain that Biden's not funny enough.
He has been at the helm. The Republican Party is pretty obviously picking their guy as well, also an old guy who, for example, cannot say the word Venezuela and who has no idea who is the current president of the United States, currently riding high on his party's abortion bans and measles-curious virological denialist free associating.
Dude, we literally exterminated measles from this country for like 30 years, and now in the last year, this year, because of the anti-vaxxers, measles is back. An outbreak in Florida and in like Ohio or something. I think there might have been more, but there's been at least 2. They've brought back measles. We beat measles for 30 years, and the right-wing anti-vaxxers brought it back. The fact is, it's not a matter of their own personal choice for their bodily autonomy. Oh, in Missouri too? It's a matter of they have become like bioweapons, walking bioweapons by choice, and they are trying to defend this as like their right.
He's trying to warm the American people up to the idea of just a little bit of dictatorship from him. And he's getting us ready to, start building camps to hold millions because his advisors say the deportations start at noon on day 1. The courts are not going to help. The law will be a sidebar to the main decision. You will make this decision. The only way this decision will be made is by you.
This is well spoken.
By you volunteering and donating and campaigning and deciding it matters enough to you to not only vote, but to help. To help your candidate try to win. The Republican Party really, really is amazing right now. But the only thing that will stop them is Democrats winning instead. Period.
Simple as.
Full stop. Thank you, United States Supreme Court, for the clarification, the campaign.
I feel like that's enough, but like I want to make it very clear here. There is no opting out here, okay? You will feel the difference between a Trump presidency and a Biden presidency. It's not going to be a difference of, oh, what side of the culture war is saying they're winning right now. It's not going to be a difference of who gets to brag about what victory or loss. It's going to be a difference in your quality of life. What's legal where you live? What policies are even possible to get passed? Hell, certain types of research into medicine and whatnot and psychology are going to get banned. Like research into like trans healthcare, stuff like that. They want to ban that so that like scientific advancements can't be made in this country to the benefit of trans people. Like, there are countless ways in which very long-lasting effects, even if Trump ends up out of office in 4 years, will be felt forever. For at least not for a very, very long time. You're going to feel the difference, okay? And it's not just going to be an internet culture war thing. It's going to be your life. You cannot opt out of this election. I know it's always been like, oh, this election is the most important election of our lives. The fact is, that's always true. The current election is always the most important election of your life. That's how it works. The present is always the most important moment of your life. Anything could happen in the present. So, yeah. Go and vote. This is the most important election of your life. And it is by a lot.